House of the Dragon had the potential to be a worthy successor to Game of Thrones. The show, however, falls well short of the standards set by the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, as it is hampered by several critical flaws. Set 172 years before the death of the Mad King, House of the Dragon delves into the Targaryen civil war, known as the Dance of Dragons. The decision to have a shorter second season for House of the Dragon, especially after the dreadful seasons 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones, is just bewildering. This has had a significant impact on the show's narrative structure, certainly in the second season, and the resolution of its plot threads. This choice has contributed to some of the series' critical flaws, including rushed storytelling, underdeveloped characters, and unresolved or poorly resolved plot lines. This video explores the critical issues that plagued House of the Dragon across its first 2 seasons. These are the many flaws of House of the Dragon. So, for the sake of this video, I'll be focusing on just some of the major characters of the show. Through these characters, I hope to showcase some of the glaring errors and inconsistencies in the show. Disclaimer, these are just my opinions, so here we go. Rhaenyra. Let me start by stating unequivocally, I am Team Black. Now, with that out the way, Rhaenyra is just a shallow, weak ruler. The show tries desperately to make her just oh so benevolent. What she really is, unbeknownst to the writers, is a weak, stubborn and delusional monarch. So she snuck into King's Landing to meet Alicent in what is probably the most ridiculous scene of the entire show. All in all, the writers wish the audience to view Rhaenyra as some unifying savior that seeks to avoid armed conflict at any time. However, through their inconsistent characterization of Rhaenyra, they make her seem like some aloof monarch who isn't suited for the throne. But maybe that's the point of her. Shows as intricate as House of the Dragon offer the audience some comfort in knowing to expect payoff for the slow build-up. However, this recent season featured some completely unnecessary scenes that I believe the writers found hard to justify. Chief among those are the scenes with Rhaenyra and Alicent. Oh my lord, how superfluous can an interaction get? The first time they met, with Rhaenyra sneaking around King's Landing, I found myself cringing and repeating over and over again, Jesus Christ, this is stupid. And it truly was stupid. It is stupid. There is absolutely no reason for Rhaenyra to do something just so reckless and pointless. What does she hope to gain from sneaking into the capital to meet up with the Dowager Queen? Like, just freaking seriously. What was the goddamn plan, Rhaenyra? It honestly would have been better for absolutely everyone if she was going to surrender, as Alicent suggested in their interaction. Which brings us on to Alicent. Worst mother ever. I cannot even begin with Alicent. That last scene of Alicent and Rhaenyra was cringe-inducing garbage. This woman who fought for her son to be on the throne, who made no effort to train her son for said throne, who neglected all of her children, and who vied for power in her own right and lost. This corrupt narcissist of a woman then throws her own firstborn son, who was burned by freaking dragon flame and plummeted hundreds of feet to the ground. This woman now offers her son for death in order to... what exactly? Aemond is still alive. Her other son Daeron is still alive. So why does Alicent think that allowing Rhaenyra to kill her first son Aegon will suddenly end the war? It makes no fucking sense. Mrs. Virtue herself, Alicent's dynamic with Rhaenyra is essentially the basic premise of the show. 2 childhood friends grow apart with their kids taking on their spite through to the next generation. Now add dragons into the mix and you have an epic tale of politics, betrayals and warfare. My problem with Alicent is her oblivion in the face of her own place in this world. Her whole misunderstanding of old Viserys' last-minute deathbed wish to actually have Aegon ascend the throne instead of Rhaenyra is pure lunacy. How the actual fuck is that even possible? As Rhaenyra herself pointed out, Viserys reaffirmed Rhaenyra as heir that very same day that he died. Remember that iconic throne room scene where old King Viserys V Targaryen triumphantly limped on over to the Iron Throne, then declared that dead kid as heir of Driftmark, and in turn claiming Rhaenyra as his true heir? Alicent herself stated that Rhaenyra would make for a great queen that same night that Viserys died. It seems as if the showrunners were too chicken shit scared to make Alicent the typical evil stepmom archetype and had to find a way to incorporate that into the script. The whole misunderstanding is pointless for 2 main reasons. Reason number 1, it's stupid and makes no sense. Character-wise, Alicent would not betray Rhaenyra so blatantly whilst claiming something so unbelievable. Oh really, Alicent? Viserys changed his mind after almost 2 decades of standing true to Rhaenyra as heir? Just so stupid. Reason number 2, it didn't really matter whether or not Viserys changed his mind. As the Green Council episode showed in season 1, Otto and the rest of the Small Council already had a plan in place to usurp the throne and make Aegon king. So regardless of Alicent's misunderstanding or Viserys' last minute decision, Aegon would be king. The whole notion just bores me. Daemon. Now a lot of people hate the fact that Daemon spent most of season 2 tripping balls in Harrenhal. I actually really enjoyed everything featuring Daemon this season, barring one exception: blood and cheese. Why did the showrunners feel the need to leave it ambiguous as to what Daemon's true intentions were? Him killing cute baby Jaehaerys out of sinister spite makes a lot more sense for his character. Certainly, it makes more sense than the murder of a royal prince baby heir being an accident, but I digress. That didn't spoil too much for me, mostly because Daemon is a naturally fascinating character, so him being placed in a haunted mansion with a witch and a sidekick in Sir Simon Strong, well, that just made for really pleasant viewing for me. The Riverland subplot was peak Game of Thrones, and the machinations between Daemon and Willem Blackwood made the whole show more intriguing, at least in my eyes. His hallucinations told us more about his psyche and deeply hidden emotions. Daemon's usual go-to is to lash out, and I think his scenes at Harrenhal were a pleasant departure from all that. At Harrenhal, Daemon could not just bulldoze his way through every interaction. He was forced to listen to outside perspectives and adjust accordingly. As a result, his trademark arrogance was constantly being tested by his new reality. It was a reality that he could not control. Despite his dragon, despite his Valyrian steel sword, despite his regal name, he was ill-equipped to handle all the spookiness of Harren the Black's castle. Daemon's interactions with Alice Rivers were so odd that at one point I was convinced that she didn't actually exist. Come to think of it, I'm still not entirely sure if Alice is real or not. I kid you not, guys. As I type this, Frank Sinatra's Witchcraft is playing in the background. You can't make this shit up. Alice Rivers is a fascinating character, and I'm very interested to finding out where her story goes from here. What I really hate about Daemon is that we never explore his relationship with his wives. His first wife, Rhea Royce, the bronze bitch, was barely a factor in the show. She was mentioned once or twice, then Daemon killed her. Some dude confronts him at Rhaenyra's wedding, all but calling Daemon a murderer, and then nothing comes of it. His marriage with Laena is just as infuriating. They dance at Rhaenyra and Laenor's wedding, then there's a massive time jump by 10 years. We come back to find that Daemon and Laena have moved to Pentos, they have twin daughters, the one twin doesn't have a dragon, and I guess Daemon resents her for it. Then Laena is pregnant, then Laena dies from dragonfire. Like, what the actual fuck? Every time I see these two black girls on the show, I have to remind myself that, oh yeah, Laena, Corlys had a daughter married to Daemon. And on that topic, Corlys does still think that Daemon murdered Laenor, right? So that Daemon could marry Rhaenyra, right? Is that still a thing? Clearly the writers don't think so. Ugh. Aemond. I love Aemond as a character. Through and through, I think he's one of the more consistent characters on the show. So, we meet Aemond as a kid, more specifically as the only kid without a dragon. His brother and his nephews tease him relentlessly for this fact, even going so far as to bring out a pig for Aemond to ride. Truly, kids can be cruel. Young Aemond then does the most gangster shit imaginable by mounting the biggest fucking dragon on earth at Laena's funeral, Vhagar. Following this absolute coup, an altercation was had between Aemond and these Sour Patch Kids. You can't steal a dragon, Rhaena. You snooze, you lose. It was my mother's dragon. Fuck out of here. Anyways, the kids fight and Aemond absolutely bodies them. Take that, hip, hurl, ha! Just absolutely owning this fight. Then Aemond gets dealt with two cheap shots. First, sand to the eyes, then Prince Lucerys whips out a fucking Swiss Army knife, that cheeky cunt, and slices Aemond's eye. Absolutely diabolical. Now obviously, a kid slicing another kid's eye out is just wrong. But what's worse, at least for me, was the reaction of Viserys. That ailing king only had one child in his rotting mind, Rhaenyra. King Viserys did not have two single shits to give to his other children. Rhaenyra was the only one who took up space in his mind and heart. Truly heartbreaking stuff. This whole scene was just nasty business. But Aemon took it like an absolute champ, saying, "I may have lost an eye, but I gained a dragon." Just an absolute boss. So, throughout the second half of the first season, I was fully invested in Aemon's journey. The episode finale was straight out of some trippy horror film. Luke arriving at Storm's End on his teeny tiny dragon, only to find Vhagar napping in the rain. It's just awesome stuff. You can feel Aemon's power in the scene especially. The Greens offer the Lord of Storm's End a hand in marriage with Prince Aemond and one of the Baratheon daughters. Only flaw I find from this is that in the entirety of the second season, this betrothal was not mentioned or referenced once. Not one time. Ugh. So anyways, turns out you can't fully control your dragon. Aemond apparently only wants to scare the living shit out of Luke and his young dragon Arrax, but Vhagar has other ideas. Chomp? I was like, she. Clay Davis style. I was so excited to see how they covered this momentous event in the next season. I mean, this was the last major scene of season 1. Surely they'll address the consequences in the next episode, or maybe in episode 2 of season 2, or just in any time of season 2. Surely? No? Fucking hell, why not? We got this awesome Boss Queen angry Rhaenyra shot ending season 1. Just prior to that, we have the shot of absolute horror on Aemon's face. I mean, look at him. He clearly didn't mean to do this. He clearly didn't mean for this to happen. So, what happened? Did he just claim Luke's death as an accident and move on? Or did he say it with his chest like, yeah, I did that shit. That boy Luke been gone. Vhagar took care of that. Like Omar.
Yo, come on. Yo, Omar's coming, man. Oh, shit.
It just felt like a missed opportunity. What I do like is Aemon's character arc in season 2, especially everything concerning his relationship with Aegon. Aegon believes his younger brother to be extremely loyal to him, yet Aegon does everything to ensure that Aemon turns on him. Aegon humiliates Aemon at the brothel in front of a bunch of Aegon's friends, Squire and Kingsguard. So Aemon's betrayal of Aegon at Rook's Rest was an earned development. It seems as though Aemon only pretended to be a monster for the longest time, only to eventually give in to his darkest impulses. Now this is highlighted by Aemon's burning of Sharp Point at the end of the season. Now he's just a monster, and I'm all here for it. Helaena. Hashtag Team Black, but also Helaena. Helaena is either really sweet and autistic or secretly nefarious. I mean, she's clearly a green seer of some kind. At the very least, she's got some mystical powers that cause her to be so naturally odd. I find her conversation with her mother Alicent after her son's decapitation to be one of the most endearing scenes of any characters on the show. Helaena expresses her own sorrow while simultaneously contextualizing her pain with the ongoings of those around her. Her concern for everyone else whilst her son was just brutally murdered in front of her eyes actually made me feel something. I really like the blank stares she gives, almost as if she exists in a different realm entirely. Nothing bad to say about Helaena, except maybe I'd like to see more of her dragon, Dreamfire. Aegon. Tom Glencarney's performance as Aegon is one of the more solid performances on the show. I honestly imagine Aegon as if one of my friends from boarding school became king of Westeros and protector of the realm. I mean, yeah, he's a rapist and a hedonist with very little concern for actually ruling, though he does try his best. One of my main problems with Aegon in season 1 was that we simply didn't get enough of him. So, he bullies his own brother, grapes a maid in the Red Keep, sires a few bastards, watches kids fighting in these crazy underground matches with their teeth filed, drinks himself into the ground and jerks off onto the peasants walking on the street. Jesus Christ, this guy sounds hardcore. Throughout the first season, Aegon was mainly just gross and bad. However, with Tom Glencarney, we get more depth to the character. Viserys, as I said, never gave two shits about Aegon, and Alicent is the worst mother of all time. So Aegon had no one he could really turn to. It made sense for him to turn to drinking and partying, and child fighting rings with the children having their teeth sharpened. Okay, what? Seriously though, Aegon knew his father never wanted him to be king, so his coronation scene was genuinely chilling, up until girl boss Rhaenys and a dragon came to ruin the fun for everyone. Seriously, Rhaenys fucking sucks. The look on Aegon's face as he holds the sword Blackfire up to a wave of cheering, adoring fans is just priceless. You can see something click in his head. It's like he has finally found a home with the people. He aims to please them. This is shown too in his first appearance as king to the general public. He wants to help this poor bastard and his livestock, but Otto talks him out of it. With Hugh the Hammer blacksmith, you can see a bit of spine growing on Aegon. It's refreshing to see that he's not just some one-dimensional villain. There are layers to this king. One thing that I hope is a red herring is the suggestion that Aegon's dragon Sunfire is dead. We saw Sunfire take a blast from Vhagar then plummet to the ground with Aegon. Let's just say, I doubt Sunfire is really dead, and if he is, I'll be so disappointed. Aegon was last spotted fleeing King's Landing with Larys Strong. All in all, I'm really excited to see where it goes from there. Rhaenys. I hate Rhaenys. Yep, that's the end of that. And the showrunners really want me to love her. She's a murderer of hundreds of innocents, and the show just simply refuses to hold her accountable. I don't necessarily even view Rhaenys as a full character. There is something just off or missing about her. This goes for her husband Corlys too. Season 1, Episode 9 has the coronation of Aegon II. The episode ends with girl boss Rhaenys escaping King's Landing via the small folks. Seriously, how the hell did she get out? She sneaks into the dragon pit. I guess there were no guards posted to prevent such things. She then goes down to where her dragon is parked, then somehow bursts through the floor, meaning she came from underground. However, this underground spot is not even mentioned once. I mean, when Aegon was getting Sunfire in Season 2, Episode 4, there was no suggestion that there's a major fucking hole in the ground or the ceiling, depending on where the dragons are kept. The showrunners said that Rhaenys refused to kill Alicent in the lot because she didn't want to kill another mother. Like, what the fuck? Didn't she just murder and stomp on about 84 different mothers? I guess the small folk don't count, but come on, Rhaenys walks around with this piety like she was King Numa Pompilius of Rome or Mother Teresa. Seriously annoying.
It is a command.
Would that you were the king.
Another thing that bothers me endlessly is the supposed death of Laenor. It seems as if Rhaenys and Corlys just kind of forgot that they had a gay son. As the show stands, both Rhaenys and Corlys believe that Rhaenyra and Daemon had a role to play in Laenor's death, so it baffles me that this is hardly ever brought up. Only once, really, did they bring it up. This was when Rhaenyra claimed unequivocally to Rhaenys that Rhaenyra had no part to play in the death of Laenor. But there's no reason for Rhaenys to believe Rhaenyra, and she clearly had no intentions of believing Rhaenyra, nor siding with Rhaenyra up until Viserys had his dramatic entrance later on in Episode 8 of Season 1. I just can't find myself taking Rhaenys too seriously. I was sort of glad when she aided at the Battle of Rook's Rest. Criston. Sir Crispy Cole is an interesting character. The first half of Season 1 will have you rooting for him. Then he devolves into this bitter man.
Spoiled cup.
This all stems from his interactions with young Rhaenyra. It was Rhaenyra herself who named Criston to the King's Guard. He clearly felt a sense of loyalty to her and tells her as much when they were in the Kingswood together. Then Rhaenyra does the sucky fucky with Crispin, and of course he immediately falls in love. He's used to tavern wenches with bad breath. He had never had a princess before. So Criston, in his infinite wisdom, decides to hand Rhaenyra an enticing proposition. Hey princess, how about you give up everything you have here and come be a beggar with me in the east? Yeah, I know you're supposed to be the queen of the 6 kingdoms and be like a ruler and all, but come sell fucking oranges with me in Essos. And obviously Rhaenyra is like, fuck no yo. So Criston gets hella jelly and bitter. This leads him to kill Joffrey Lonmouth at Rhaenyra and Laenor's wedding, which is like, what? Okay, so we are forced to assume that Alicent saved Criston from any potential repercussions, but how exactly? He just murdered a lord in front of the princes and princesses before the king and queen. How did Criston even walk out of that hall without being apprehended? Then next, he's in the Godswoods about to stab himself, and Alicent saves him. How? They don't tell us. The next episode skips forward 10 years, so the show trusts the audience to come to their own conclusions. Normally, this wouldn't be too much of a big deal, but far too often does House of the Dragon rely on the audience to just simply fill in the blanks. Season 2 Kristen is much better. He's upgraded from princess to queen mother. Bro is straight up licking the plate off Alicent. Well done, son. Well done. Let's not even mention how Kristen refused to be Rhaenyra's whore, only to end up being Alicent's whore, but whatever. Following the Battle of Rook's Rest, we get my favorite version of Criston Cole. Depressing, nihilistic, pessimistic Criston. This boy is genuinely shook to his core. He gets very introspective, and you can tell that the lad is in genuine fear for his life. He does not know when he will pay for his sins, but you just know that he knows that he will pay for his sins. Otto. Sir Otto Hightower. This whole dance of dragons, that can be argued, would never have happened without the influence and persistence of Otto. This prequel to Tywin Lannister was adamant from very early on that the realm would never accept a woman as their sovereign queen. Now that may have been true, but I guess we'll just never know, since Otto worked from the onset to undermine Rhaenyra's claim to the Iron Throne. In hindsight, I find it difficult to sympathize with Otto and his ambitions. So let's think about this for a minute. What does Otto want? What are his base desires? Peace in the realm? Sure. He oversaw 2 successive administrations, both of which were relatively peaceful, at least when Otto was Hand of the King. Okay, so what else? He wants his own blood on the throne. Understandable. Who wouldn't, right? So Otto wants Aegon to ascend the throne, and he wants peace in the realm. Ostensibly, these 2 points are Otto's main objectives. He stresses to Alicent and anyone that would listen that the realm will never accept Rhaenyra as heir.
The king will die, and if Rhaenyra succeeds him, war will follow. You understand?
But my contention is this. Otto is portrayed as someone with foresight and determination. However, this does not translate to his relationship with Aegon. You know, the king. It seems that Otto made no effort whatsoever to prime Aegon for the throne, nor to steer him clear of the vices of royal upbringing. Think of how Aegon was in season 1. Just really think about it. As a kid, he was a drunken bully. By the time he reached his late teens, he was a rapist, an adulterer who fathered bastards that fought in child fighting pits. Let me repeat that last part, because I don't think this is said enough. Aegon is a rapist, an adulterer who fathered bastards that fought in child fighting pits. Not to mention all the other atrocities committed by Aegon before and during his time as king. And where was Otto exactly throughout all this? This man was unwavering in his belief that Aegon should take the throne in Rhaenyra's stead. Say what you will about Viserys' shitty parenting, but he at least made somewhat of an effort to accustom his daughter for the Iron Throne. Yeah, sure, Viserys never gave a damn about any of his other children, but Rhaenyra received her royal education from early on. Now, there is an obvious emphasis on the fact that Otto merely wants his blood on the throne, or else be damned. This is perhaps most evident when Otto proposed a marriage between Rhaenyra and Aegon when the boy was only 2 years old.
There is another choice beyond Casterly Rock.
Who do you have in mind?
Prince Aegon.
The boy just turned 2, Otto. But it would cease the endless proposals for Rhaenyra's
I mean, Jesus Christ, this was certainly a different time to ours. Beyond all that, it seems the show wants us to believe Otto when he says that the realm would never accept Rhaenyra as queen. I just don't buy it. Look at the phrase of all people. The second season, their main concern was not that a woman will be queen, but it was a concern for their own safety. They just wanted dragon protection and protection from dragons. Same can be said about the Vale. The North was steadfast in their support of Rhaenyra, never wavering. So, when Otto says this to Aegon,
You never think of your father, his forbearance, his judiciousness, his dignity.
I lost my shit. Like, okay, Otto, let us think of the old king. You know, the king whose intentions you thwarted so brazenly, the king whose heir's throne you usurped, the king whose daughter you plotted to murder, your friend for decades whom you dishonored and whose wishes you dismissed. Yeah, Otto, let's think of that fucking king. Rhys Ifans is a superb actor and his presence on screen is truly missed. However, seeing him in a cell at the end of the season following his hiatus gave me hope. I hope Otto sees an untimely end. Cannot stand the character. Destroyer of peace, that should be his cognomen. Mysaria. Mysaria is the worst character on House of the Dragon. I don't know the actress, but she is not good in this show. Let's start with this. What the hell is this accent?
There is no power But would the people allow you to take? Parading a dragon's head through the streets like a prize of war. Bread is scarce. The king has fallen. They whispered to each other that when Viserys lived, there was peace.
Honestly, let's go through it now. We meet Mizari as a whore who was in bed with Daemon. He couldn't get it up for her, so this is off to a bad start. She evolves into the White Worm, holding some type of sway within the underground scenes of King's Landing, even going so far as to hold the apparent heir to the throne hostage. She does so in order to extract some concessions from Otto, namely the closure of the fighting pits. This is all well and good, as the show does highlight the plight of the small folk. This, however, does not compensate for that grating accent and her character evolution. Her scenes are a bloody chore to sit through. Season 2 Mysaria started with some promise, and I was optimistic that the writers of the show had heard of the complaints about her character and sought to remedy her inherent flaws. This was not meant to be. Mysaria flees King's Landing after a target was placed on her back. She is captured by the Blacks and gives Daemon 2 names, which in turn leads to the whole blood and cheese fiasco. What displeases me most about all this is the passivity of her character. She seems deflated and not in control of any situation. She was apprehensive about dealing with Daemon, claiming that she had no power, only to turn around and wield something of a magic wand for the remainder of the season. Her initial interaction with Rhaenyra was decent, I guess. However, following Mysaria's foiling of the plot to kill Rhaenyra via Eric Cargyle, it all goes downhill. Mysaria becomes a tedious and boring character. She turns into this limp cheerleader for Rhaenyra, almost yes, queening Rhaenyra with every breath she takes. Her reaction following the Dragon Seeds massacre was what exactly?
You have done what no one else would dream of, and you have been rewarded. The gods favor you.
What's worst about this character, at least to me, is that the creators of the show fumbled the golden opportunity to have Mysaria represent the small folks' perspective. Moreover, Mysaria was well poised to be the humbling factor that Rhaenyra desperately needed and still needs. Remember this scene with young Rhaenyra and Daemon?
Many of us small folk like to believe that as a male, everyone should be the heir.
Their wants are of no consequence.
This is an arrogant, privileged, pompous, spoiled brat. At the end of the day, Rhaenyra is a full member and embracer of the ideology of Targaryen supremacy. She believes the family to be closer to gods than to man. She's hinted as much throughout the show. Then here comes Mysaria to confirm all of Rhaenyra's protestations. It's weak shit. My hope is that Mysaria is playing the long game and will one day betray Rhaenyra at a crucial moment. That will make the show much better viewing in hindsight. Corlys. I will end this video with Corlys. This will be the final character that I cover here. There's much more to cover in terms of the flaws of the show, but with Corlys, we complete the most egregious of the faults. Corlys is barely a character at this point. As I type this, I struggle to garner any emotion or sympathy for the man. As good as the actor is, the writers have not done him justice. Corlys fathered 2 bastards, Alan and Adam. His neglect of them for their entire childhood brings a harsh reality into the show. It was refreshing to see the 2 brothers and their different goals and ambitions. Adam clearly wants his brother to leverage the fact that Alan saved Lord Corlys' life into some good assignments and perhaps fortune and security. Alan, on the other hand, is reticent and silently bitter. His experiences with Corlys are awkward to say the least, and it seems that he wants no part to do with Corlys. This all makes for tense and intriguing television. No problems here. Love it when Alan finally can't take it anymore and explodes. He basically tells Corlys that Corlys has been a piece of shit deadbeat for abandoning Alan and Adam and leaving them to scrounge for scraps whilst Corlys lived the high life. Corlys and Rhaenys are the only normal couple in the show. Despite the fact that Rhaenys had a freaking dragon, it seemed Corlys still got that pimp hand. The whole season, Corlys is just fixing his damn ship. It's freaking annoying. It's like they built a massive prop and set up a ship and the producers were like, yeah, we better get our money's worth out of this bad boy. Even after Corlys was named Hand of the Queen, he did absolutely nothing. Look at his first small council meeting. What does he do? What does he say? Bloody nothing. Such a waste. He gives some obvious advice at the end of the season, advice that Rhaenyra, in her infinite stupidity, immediately dismisses, and that's it. That's the extent of his general contribution to season 2. A bloody shame. Anyways, these were the many flaws of House of the Dragon. Of course, I only focused on some of the characters. There is a lot more. There are many other characters that just miss the mark often. Rhaenyra's Dragon Quest comes to mind. However, I think I've covered what bothered me specifically. This is me the most. About season 2 of House of the Dragon. I still love the show and I am entirely invested. Freaking sucks that we probably have to wait another 2 years for season 3. I mean, freaking Christ, why not for once give us more than 10 episodes? Why is the impulse or instinct immediately to give us less episodes?
Fewer. Pardon?
Imagine if HBO came out and said, you know what guys, the 3rd season of House of the Dragon will have 12 episodes instead of 10. This time you get 2 more episodes instead of 2 less.
Fewer. What?
Wouldn't that be the day? Anyway, those are just some of my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you next time.